And I narrate that because that's one of the things that I almost always forget to do until we're 2 or 3 slides in. So welcome everyone. This is the final capacity assessment training. I am very excited to see everyone here, and you have an opportunity today to have a lot of questions responded to if you have any. Deanne will be taking those, and we will also have in the chat the availability for where if you have questions and you don't want to perhaps interrupt during, but nothing's an interruption. You all know how Deanne and I work. It's that if you have that question, get that responded to. We have some lessons learned. You know, this has been 4 years ago. Gosh, you know, time just seems to fly by. We were talking about how fast January seemed to bust by, but 4 years has just been a blur of sorts. But we have lots of great information that's going to be shared today. As I said before, this is recorded so we can reference it back. I will be monitoring the chat, and so if you have any questions, please know that it will be referred to, and I will also be sure to check and make sure that by the end that everything is responded to. If you could also please fill out the demographic form and get that back, and we will make sure that all of this is available for you. And I think that I have rambled on long enough about the different details, and there's no one in the waiting room. So I'm going to pass the baton to you, Deanne. And oh, I guess I have one more. Michelle was here a minute ago. So, all right, if anyone does have any technical problems, please just let me know too, and I will do my best to get that figured out for you.
All right, thanks, Heather. Well, it's good to see everybody, even if it is on Zoom. I wished I was there in person with everybody. That would be fun, but also we find out that we are so used to using the efficiency of our time that we all tend to not want to use windshield time and wasteful of it. So it's really quick and easy to jump on a Zoom meeting. So thanks to everybody for jumping on today, and it is great to see you. Just a reminder that everyone who is here, these are the KPCCI grantees that are all in your final year. As Heather was referring to the 4 years that most of you had a year of planning, some maybe not in a consecutive order, but a year of planning, and then have had 3 years of implementation. And this year will be the end of that 3rd year. And so things were a little different with this year as far as the assessment goes. Usually you have had a capacity coalition survey that was given at the beginning of your grant year in the summertime or the fall. We put that off this year, since it was your final year, until the spring, which will be the end of your grant period, so that your coalition wasn't expected to do it twice in a year, so that you could have that very end result data to compare to your previous years. The other that you're going to be doing is the Triethnic Community Readiness Interview Assessment, which was done during the planning year for a baseline, and then not expected to do again until this end of this 4th year after 3 years of implementation. So those are the 2 things we're going to be discussing today. But let's go around and just have everybody introduce themselves to you, to one another. So let's start with Dana, Brad, and then Mandy. If you would introduce yourself, tell us you know, what coalition you are representing, and one most exciting thing that you've experienced over your last 3 years with the grant.
Okay, I'm Dana Rickley with the Clay Counts Coalition. I'm the fiscal agent. I'm also the director of the health department. And what I've really appreciated is getting that teenage role up and running with Y-Links, and then also being able to use our connections to help meet some of our MCH goals with the education and prevention. So that's what I like about being a part of Clay Counts and the KPCCI process.
Awesome. Thank you, Dana. Brad, Mandy, and then Lori.
Hi, everybody. Brad Stroud, I'm with Live Well, Crawford County. I think the most exciting thing for us has been our ability to get into Girard Middle School to teach the Crossroads program. It's a drug and alcohol prevention program. And so what was exciting really is that we got into, and we taught last year, we taught like one elective course, and then they were impressed with the program enough that the homeroom teacher said, hey, we want you to do this to all of our 7th graders. So we have more than doubled our outreach, and that's kind of continuing to grow too. So they've asked us to do a Catch My Breath vaping program over there as well. So it's just kind of, everything's kind of taken off. So
Awesome. That's exciting. Thanks, Brad, for sharing. Mandy, Lori, and then I want to get in, and then Molly.
Hi guys, I'm Mandy Chikansky. I'm from PARS, or Prevention and Resiliency Services here in Topeka. And I think one of the most exciting things about our coalition is that we finally have a steady person in the role to chair it. And while she's not here today, she's on her way back from CADCA mid-year. She's really been here for maybe 6 months and has grown the reach and the engagement of different community partners, which I feel is just causing immediate ripples in our community. It's the work that we do. So I'm really proud of her and the work that Haley's been doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Mandy. That was a big goal with the capacity building there. And so that's exciting. All right, Lori, Molly, and then we might have all our grantees, and we'll start with our contractors.
Hi, I'm Lori Martin. Can you see me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not showing up on my own screen, so I no. Anyway, I have been with the coalition now. This will be my 2nd year, and it's been such a rewarding experience on a professional level to see the expanded mental health services that we're able to partner with our school district towards, and really seeing that take form in regard to making a difference with the kids. And as Dana mentioned earlier, I think YLink has been a wonderful vehicle for us to open the doors between the coalition and the schools. Also on a personal level, I have just learned so much about mental health and just the whole prevention model. I thought I knew things. I was a principal for 40 years. And so I really thought I knew this stuff, and just have been learning alongside the folks as we've done all of our trainings. And so it's been a good growth opportunity for me at that level as well.
Great. Thanks, Lori. We're glad to have you. And I know Clyde Count has benefited from your being there. Molly.
Hello, forgive me. I work from home on Fridays and I have a toddler next to me. And so, yes, I'm Molly Gottabed. I am the program coordinator for our KCK Life Recovery Coalition. And for a while there with COVID and everything, it was kind of slow going and we had a lot of issues and things, but the last few meetings we've had have been really great, and we've got a lot of movement in the community, and there's some partners that are doing some really exciting things. So I'm very encouraged by everything that's been going on. And we actually spoke the other day about, getting some other funding to continue supporting the work. And I'm excited to see the impact that it's going to have on Wyandotte County, because we really need this. And so far now it seems like we've got the right people at the table finally, which I'm so excited about.
Awesome. Thanks, Molly. Yeah, I know that, small beginnings, when you didn't have something already established there, you had to start from the groundwork and up, and you have done excellent. So exciting to see those things happening in Kansas City, Kansas. All right. If we want to go around just the contractors that are on, and go ahead and introduce yourself. Carson, Mike, Ariel.
I'm Carson Buffington, and I am a prevention intern at DECA, and this is I'm ending my 3rd week, so I don't really know much about this, but I'm excited to learn more.
Thanks, Carson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel Kelly. I'm a community sports specialist with DECA. I've been here about 6 months now, and most of you are my funded community, so hi.
Thanks, Ariel. Mike, Melissa,
Good
and
afternoon,
then
everyone. My
Linda.
name's Mike Parsons. I'm a prevention program coordinator for DECA. And I work with this team of good folks that have been working with you for the last 4 years.
Thanks, Mike. Melissa, Linda, and Dina.
Hi, I'm Melissa Guns. I am a program evaluator with Greenbush. I think most of you know me, at least those from Clay, Crawford, and Wyandotte. And I will miss you guys next year.
Yep, you're muted, Linda.
My name's Linda Weldon, and I'm with Greenbush. Alan and Shawnee are my grantees here.
Thanks, Linda. Dina.
Hi, I'm Dina Kemp, and I'm Southeast Kansas Community Mobilizer. And I am so proud of Crawford and Allen County and all the work they've done the last 4 years. And I look forward to seeing how they continue to grow moving forward.
Thanks, Dina. And Michelle.
Michelle Capri's community sports specialist with DECA. I don't currently have any communities in this grant, but I have some that have started the intro process that potentially could lead to this grant. So I'm just here to kind of see what's going on and how it works.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. And I'm Deanne Armstrong. Work for DECA. My title now is what is it? Prevention advisor, I guess. So I just do whatever they tell me to do. So happy to be here to share with you and to answer your questions and help to equip you with the tools and the knowledge that you need as you transition out of this grant at the end of the year. So hopefully you've all seen this, and it's what you go by, but just pointing out to you in your deadlines and deliverables forms that what we're really going to be emphasizing today is talking about how you're going to complete that KPC capacity assessment summary report and what's needed for it. And it's not due till June 19th, so it seems like that's a long ways away. But we really want to equip you with what you need so you can pace your work so that you're not panicking at the last minute. So remember, June 19th is being the deadline for when this is all of that information that you're going to use is going to be completed and put on that summary report by at least that day. So just a reminder about capacity, because that's what this is about, is assessing your capacity. It's not assessing the outcomes of your goals and objectives for the risk factors and the problem area that you are targeting. This is about the capacity, which capacity being the resources, your coalition being one of those resources. And so that's why we're going to be talking about the coalition capacity survey, assessing the coalition itself, and then also the readiness of your community. And that's where those triethnic community readiness interviews come in. And those are the two things, the two assessments that we're going to be talking about today that you have used to measure your capacity, coalition, resources, and the readiness of your community. Remember that we emphasize the importance of capacity, that without capacity, sustainability wouldn't happen. You wouldn't be successful in your outcomes that you're targeting. Capacity really is an important step in the SPIF process. And you have had a capacity building plan that you have been implementing along with your evidence-based strategies. and that increasing those resources and improving the readiness of your community all along during this grant. And so these two assessments are going to be able to measure your progress and to show those outcomes of the great work that you've been doing. So this is what the capacity assessment summary report looks like. As you can see, there's going to be the results from both the triethnic readiness interviews that you're going to be doing, and there's also going to be the results from the coalition capacity survey summary. The orange arrow there pointing to the coalition capacity survey is the second part of this summary report, but it's what we're going to cover first because it doesn't take as much. You've done those every year, so you're pretty familiar with those, but we're going to talk about that first. In this report, summary report, which are already in your folder so that you can look at them, and that you, as you go along, you can prepare for them, and as you get the data that you're collecting, you can enter it there. You're going to be entering the information and the data from year 1, year 2, and year 3 to be able to compare the process along the way and your progress. And we're gonna look at this form again, but keep that in mind. And if there's any questions, we're going to be looking at the results from that, and we're going to be looking at dimensions and statements. I'm going to show you that in a minute down here. And you're going to be looking at the percentage from those dimensions and statements that you have been working on over the last 3 years, and what you have chosen along the way that you wanted to highlight, that you wanted to make progress on. You're going to put those down there, and you're going to put the results from those surveys to show the progress that you've made. So this is kind of the time frame of when those coalition capacity surveys are going to be happening. Greenbush will send you out a link like they always have before, but they're going to send it out on March 24th. And then you have time between March 24th, at least by March 27th, to be able to put together an email with that link that you're going to send out to all of your coalition members on your roster. So another thing that you could do between now and then would be to update your roster if you haven't already, making sure that that's updated and ready to go. When you send out that link, you might want to give them a little information, your coalition members a little information about, why they're being asked to take this survey. It is a kind of a lengthy survey, unfortunately. It does take a little bit of time, but probably most of your coalition members have taken it before, so they're aware of that. And then on April the 3rd, Greenbush will provide an update on how many of those surveys that you've sent out have been completed, what percentage. So you'll want to kind of have in mind, maybe when you do send it out, count the amount of people that you've sent it out to, so that you know what to expect. What's your goal? Are you hoping for at least 50%? Are you hoping for 90%? You'll need to know what number you've sent it out to, so that you know where you are as far as when Greenbush gives you that number of how many are completed. You'll then have a chance to send a reminder email out to people. You won't get the names of the people who have completed it, just a number, so that you'll know whether you need to send out a reminder or not. The survey then closes on April 14th, so you'll want to ask your members to please participate and complete that by then. And then after the closing of the 14th, Greenbush will have a week is all they gave themselves till April 21st, that they will put together reports for you all, and they'll send you that report, that final summary report, which will look something like this on the front page there. And it will tell you the sectors of who participated in that survey and the amount of how many coalition members will be a part of that. So if you had 24 that you sent it out to, and there were 13 that participated, if you wanted to find the percentage, just 13 divided by 24, you would know how many participants percentage-wise participated in your survey. And the report itself will look something like this. So when we talk about the dimensions, those are in the blue at the top there. There's going to be a number of different questions that are asked in each dimension. So the dimension here is vision, mission, and goals. And the statement with the lowest percentage would be this bottom statement here at 28.6%. So the statement would be, community members and organizations are aware of our coalition's vision, mission, and goals. And in these last columns here, with this report, you're going to get 2 years worth that are going to compare to one another. So you want to really pay attention to that date that's at the top there. And they're taking the column 3 and 4 together. So those last 2 columns are what you want to look at, but you want to pay attention to which one is the current data for what you've just collected, and then it's going to compare it to the previous. Now, as you noticed here, in this example, it went from 2019 to 2022. This was from a coalition last year that was in their year 4, because at they took the survey at 2019 as usual, like in the beginning of the grant period, like in the August or whatever time that frame that was. But then that last year, just as you did, they did not take that survey until the end of the year 2022. So there's really not, there's nothing missing here data wise. This would be, yours is going to show 2023 and 2021. It's not going to show 2022 because you didn't take it there. You don't get the results from that. So looking at that comparison wise, and then you have had each year that you have collected this data, you have updated your coalition capacity building plan. You should, in your folders on the workstation, you all have a folder, and if you look at previous years, you should all have the data report from Greenbush that they have given to you from your coalition capacity reports in the past, as well as you should have taken that data and updated your coalition capacity plan. And this is where those 2 places are where you're going to get the information that you need for that last summary report. In your capacity building plan, you have something that looks like this for the coalition capacity assessment that you would have updated each year. And then you also had action plans or work plans on what you were going to do to increase your capacity depending on the results from that data. So that's when you can go back and look, and you don't need to report everything on that summary report, but the things that you were working on that you identified as low and that you took action to change, those are the things that you want to measure to see the change and to show that progress on that final report. The final report also is a Word document. So if you want to add more lines because you are identifying more statements than what they give you room for there, feel free that you'll be able to do that. Are there any questions on the coalition capacity survey? All right, and your coalition always has the support of any of us and your community support specialist. So when it comes to it and you have questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. In your capacity building plan also is the triathletic readiness assessment summary. And this is where it has not changed since the baseline because you just did it that one time. And now you're going to do it again for the second time and measure results. So you've been working with the same data. If you updated your work plans, they were based on the same data. Your data didn't change. So the overall score and the score for each one of these dimensions are going to be in probably the same in all of your capacity building plans. So in your assessment summary report, this is where you're going to simply put the baseline here from what was done previously that is in that report. And then you're going to have your new data that's going to be the exit data. And we're going to show you how to collect that data here. And then this is where it's going to be put. Your final scores will be put for here. And then you'll be able to compare to see what the progress was. And then there'll just be some simple questions to answer in that report also. Any questions on that?
Nothing's been posted in the chat, so.
All right. So your community readiness, there is a handbook and you can get it by simply Googling because the Community Readiness Triathletic Center model was created by Colorado State University. It is a free resource that you can simply Google, or we could put this link in the chat, but really I'm going to show you the better place probably to go is on the workstation to be able to find all the tools that you need. We put everything that you need there, and we've changed some of it into Word documents so that you can make changes to it. And we've also simplified the handbook so it's not so many pages long. So if you simply go to the workstation on the KPCCI home page, you will see this icon that says KPCCI training materials. If you'll click on that, it'll then open page 2 over here, or this where the arrow says 2. It will open this. These folders will be optional, and the one that you'll want to click on are resources by spiff step. And if you click on that, then it will open this for you. And we are going to want to look in the assessment resources, because that's what that's the spiff step that we're going to be doing is assessment. So the KPCCI training materials, the resources by the spiff step, and then clicking on assessment resources. And then this is the page it's going to open for you with these options. The ones that I have underlined here are the ones that you probably will be most helpful to you. The handbook has all of this in it, but we've just separated it out for you. So if you wanted to just click on what are the dimension rating scales, you could do that and it would be separate for you. But all of the information you need is in the handbook, and then the scoring sheets we put into a Word document for your easier access, being able to use that. And the questions are there in a Word document so that you can manipulate them and adjust them to tailor them to your needs and your community. So those are the 3 most important parts I think that I would recommend. The other one that might be helpful is the scoring sheet. Once you are ready to score them, if you wanted to have that separate instead of, in the mix of the pages of the handbook, that might be useful for you also later down the road. Everything that we're going to cover during this training, you can find in this handbook. So it's going to be a great place for you to just download and go back to review. And also, if you're somebody else that's going to be doing these interviews with you, you can walk them through it in that handbook. So the Triathletic Center Community Readiness Model is it's free. It's really easy to use. It's what we have been using for as long as I can remember in the prevention world. There are other models out there, but it's going to measure attitudes, knowledge, efforts, and activities and resources of your community members and your leaders. That community readiness is the degree to which a community is willing and prepared to take action on your issue. So that's why it was important to measure that at the beginning, to be able to identify the readiness and increase that readiness, as well as know what the readiness is when you were choosing your strategies to help it, that you're making sure that your strategies are going to be as successful as possible, reaching the outcomes you want. Really makes a difference in if your community is ready to embrace in that. The community readiness model matches, like I said, those interventions that the readiness for them to increase success. The reasons that it is so beneficial to use it is inexpensive, as I said, easy to use, encourages local experts and resources. You've heard it. I'm sure you've heard us say local people solve community problems best. Problems that we have are in our communities, but so is the expertise and the solutions. So you don't want somebody coming in and telling you what to do or how to do it, but it really helps to empower communities to be able to identify and to use the resources that you have available. Provides a shared vocabulary about readiness and progress, helps create community-specific interventions, as I mentioned, and just really helps to identify what that best fit prevention efforts are for your community. All right, so the important part, what do I do? How do I do? How do I conduct this readiness assessment? You're going to identify your issue, which we encourage you to use the same issue that you did before, that you have been working on in your community. You're going to identify and clearly define what community is. That could be a county, a city, a school district, a neighborhood, but we also would encourage you to use the same community that you did the first time. So it's your target community that you have been targeting with this grant, whether that was county or city or where what that community was. You want to choose your key respondents. We're going to ask again that you do at least 10 of these interviews. Prepare your interview questions, which we're going to go over here in a minute. Conduct and transcribe your interviews, score them, and then calculate your average dimension scores and use your data to complete your reports. We're going to go over each of these things in this coming slides. So first, you need to choose the 10 respondents. It might be good to go back and look at who the respondents were, the sectors that were represented before. If you want to choose, you don't have to, but if you want to choose the same sectors that were represented, but you at least want to think about the diversity to get a real diverse voice from your different stakeholders that you choose. So choosing from not only these, but also gender, age, where they live, especially if you're targeting a whole county, you want to make sure that you get people from the different communities represented, rural folks represented. So you want to just kind of be very thoughtful and think through who the best people are as you're checking or as you're choosing who those interviewees are going to be with. I also would encourage you to read through your interview questions and get familiar with them, because you want also to make sure that the people that you're interviewing are the people that are going to have the knowledge to answer those questions. The Triathletic Center recommends the interviews at least include these different sectors: someone from the legal system or law enforcement, which still could be, you know, county attorney or school resource officer or whoever that you identify within your community, the business sector, education field, health, government, and involved citizens. All right, so now we're going to shift about the interviewing. What is the interviewing process and what does it look like? The first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to prepare your interview questions. After you've identified who those interviewees are going to be with, you want to look at your questions. The questions have been already prepared for you. It's part of the model, but you're going to have some options available to you. There's going to be some bolded questions that are required, and there are going to be some unbolded questions that are going to be optional. So you can decide. We recommend you don't ask all of the questions because it can get pretty lengthy and you might lose the people that you're interviewing before they answer the important questions that you really want. So I would go through and become familiar with those and see if there's any of the optional questions that you want to ask. There's also the option, especially with you being at the end of your year and the direction that you're going to go next. If there is questions at the end that you want to add, if there's data that you want to collect, then that would be an option for you also. The questions are organized by dimension, so you want to keep them in the order that they're in. That will also help with the scoring. And you'll also want to adapt the questions. You're going to have a place to be able to put what your issue is in the different questions, along with what your community that you're targeting. So I'm going to show you those questions here in a minute. Oh, here they are. Okay, so the dimension here is community knowledge of efforts. That's the name of the dimension. And there's usually some narrative there that you can read to them. And whenever there is parentheses where I have highlighted in yellow there, it says issue. That's where you'll want to take that out on the Word document with those questions as you tailor them and put, I'm going to ask you about current community efforts to address underage alcohol use, if that's what it is, or youth marijuana use. And at the beginning, you probably want to make sure that they understand what that age population is, to make sure that you are as specific as possible what you're asking them, so that they can relate that question accordingly. And then are there efforts in community, meaning whether it's Topeka, Kansas, or within school district USD 500, or whatever that community is that you are targeting. You want to be specific about that as possible, and help them to understand, make sure that they have clarity around what the issue is and what the community is.
And there actually was a question in reference to interviewing coalition members or seeking input from those not in the coalition, which is a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would recommend that you look outside of the coalition. I think that the coalition is going to be skewed because they've been working on this effort. I wouldn't say that you can't interview anybody that's been in the coalition, but I would try to get the majority outside of the coalition. All right. And it doesn't mean that if you, especially you read through your information and the questions, and the information is going to be best coming from the sheriff, and maybe he's been a part of the coalition, but he's the one who really knows the community and knows those answers. I wouldn't say that you couldn't, have him be a part and him be somebody that you interviewed. So use your best discretion there, making sure that you're getting the information that you want. All right, so most or each interview takes about 30 to 60 minutes is what they tell us. If I'm the one doing the interviewing, I say more like 60, 50 to 60 minutes. But that's because I love doing these and I love taking the opportunity to have some discussion afterwards. If there's somebody that you want to interview and it's important and they only can give you 30 minutes of your time, I would say you could make that happen. You want to stick to the most important questions that are required and keep the pace going. It's possible to do that. But if I were you, I would leave more like 50 minutes probably for most of these to happen. But after you've done a couple and you find out you're buzzing through these and they are only taking you 40 minutes, then great. But you'll want to set up those appointments beforehand, giving the respondents a little bit of information about why you want to meet with them, what the purpose is, what the purpose of your coalition is. But you don't want to send them the questions beforehand. You don't want them to be able to do research and find answers from other people and stuff. You really want to get their input at the moment. So that we do it with two people doing the interviews, one person that facilitates the questions and the one person that is the scribe. So I encourage you to get that Word document and get the questions the way that you want them. Have it on a laptop so that your note taker has a copy for each one of those interviews, and that the interviews are numbered as you do them. So number 1, number 2, and you'll want to put, like if it's law enforcement or what the sector is, but you also want to keep it anonymous and so that there's not names. So when somebody is scoring them, they're not thinking about a name of a person, so to speak, if it is somebody else that does the scoring rather than you. What else do I want to say about that? So the two people that are doing the interviewing, especially the facilitator, it's helpful to really know the questions and be familiar with them and to know a little bit about the scoring and how they're going to be scored, because that will help as you're facilitating that conversation and that interview, when you should kind of prompt them for more. And asking more questions, making sure that there's clarification. It will also help the note taker to know what to listen for and how to I'm taking the best notes to answer and score those questions. So really beneficial to really have clarity on the process, the questions being asked and how you're going to score them before the interviews. So this is a narrative and it is in the handbook, but this is kind of a opening dialogue that is just suggested as an example that you could put in front of your questions. You want to make sure that they have a really good understanding of the issue and the community, and that this is going to be kept confidential. So when all of the information is gathered, it will be put together in a summary report, and that they won't be named out saying the sheriff said, or, Mandy said. So you want to make sure that you say that to them and that you also follow through with that. So the interviewer should prompt for more detailed information with statements, something like, could you tell me more about that? Or can you explain what you mean by, whatever they're saying, or, something like that. But you never want to give your opinion. And what you don't want to do, which is my go-to that I have to really make myself not do is trying to rephrase what they said in my own words. I'm thinking that I'm saying, is this what you mean? Because this is the way I understood it. But you want to be careful not to put words into their mouth, but to just ask for clarification, making sure that you have understanding without rephrasing in your own words. Any questions on that? All right, so we're going to talk a little bit now about scoring the interviews. You can score them whatever works best for you as far as timing. It might be good after the first interview to go ahead and go through a scoring process so that you have a better understanding. If you're like me, I like some practical hands-on in order to give me a better understanding. So once I have done that, I have a lot more understanding, and that I might really know how to ask and facilitate the questions better, or what to listen for when I'm taking notes. So it might be good after the first one or two to do them, but otherwise I like doing them myself in clumps and not just one at a time, because once, and I'll show you this, but once I go through one, I'm kind of in the groove of doing it. So it helps me to do like maybe at least 4 at a time or something, but they don't have to be done that way. They can be done however works best for you as the scorers. So there's some best practices for scoring the interviews, and these are the recommendations. There should be 2 people that are doing the scoring. I have done it with them being the same 2 people that have done the interviews, and that works. You can do 2 separate people if you want to, but you have to have 2 people that do the scoring individually. And then after they individually have scored them, they'll come together and they'll have a consensus meeting and talk about their results and come to a consensus. So 2 people to score them. You'll need to read through each interview in its entirety before scoring. You can look for keywords within each of the dimensions. You're going to score them by dimensions. The handbook gives a recommendation to use a different color of highlighter for each dimension. And if you look at the words that you're looking for by the score sheet, you could go through and let's say the first dimension is the efforts, and you're going to make it pink, and you go through and you read the whole interview, and all of the information that you think refers to that, you highlight in pink so you can go through and look at that. I myself don't do it this way, but if that works for you, great, do it that way. I'm going to show you a little closer how I do it here in a minute. Anything else on that sheet, I guess? So this is what in the handbook, the score sheet looks like. This is the individual score sheet that 2 people would each have a separate sheet that would be similar to this. As you see on here, the interviews are numbered, but there's only 6 of them. So I took the liberty of creating a template that is really similar, and it's uploaded in the on the workstation that allows for 10 scores. It's a Word document. There's room here. If you want to do 11, 12, 13, 15, however many, by all means, feel free to do as many as you want. We just require you do at least 10. So if Dana is scoring these and Heather is scoring these, they're each going to have a score sheet that looks like this. They're going to put their name here, and then you're just, as you score them, you're going to, as I said, you're going to score each dimension of each interview. So you'll score interview 1 dimension and you'll put that score here. You'll score interview 2, you'll score that knowledge of efforts, and you'll put it in that column for number 2. And you're gonna, it's easier for me when I score them and I'm scoring a few at a time to go through and score all of the knowledge of efforts, because you already know what you're thinking about. But not everybody's like that. You might want to go through and score the whole interview and then go to the next one, whatever works best for you. But you'll want to get at the eventually when you're all done with them, you're going to want, this sheet will be all completely filled out with a score for each dimension. They do not have to be whole numbers. We recommend there to be decimals, and I'll show you that in a minute here. So this is what the rating scale looks like when you score an interview. So what you'll do is you're going to give it a level between 1 and 9. Again, not using whole numbers, but using decimals will be more accurate. And you'll go through and you'll read. So this is just for community knowledge of efforts. I go through and if there's anything that really stood out that related to community efforts, other than in that section where those questions are asked, that's where it comes out that you could highlight those in different places. But most of the information that you need to score this dimension is going to be in the questions for that dimension. And you're going to pay attention to these levels, going through each one until they're not accurate anymore. So the first one, community members have no knowledge about local efforts addressing the issue. If that is true, if that's what they said when you interviewed him, then maybe that's just a 1. But if it is not true, then you want to go to, if that's not where it lands, you want to go to level 2. Only a few community members have any knowledge about local efforts addressing the issue. Community members may have misconceptions or incorrect knowledge about local efforts. If that is, if that's true, you want to go on to the third one to see if the third one is 100% true. And you keep going until you could say, no, that we can't make a move on from 4 to 5. But it maybe is between 4 and 5. Maybe at least some community members have heard of local efforts, but they're really not and are familiar with the purpose of the efforts, but they really don't know who the efforts are for or how the efforts work. They're not sure who's doing the efforts. So maybe it's a full-fledged 4, but it's not quite a 5. So maybe it's a 4.8, maybe it's a 4.75, maybe it's a 4.5. That is where you doing the scoring in 2s and then coming to that consensus meeting and sharing with each other what your scores were and having that conversation. That's when you can decide on that final score that you're going to give them, and where those decimals really come in to play also. Any questions on that? Reading through it, as you can see, there's the 9. There are 9 levels, and you just keep reading through each level. Or each dimension, which is going to have 5 or 6 questions on it, and those questions are the ones that you're going to specifically refer to in answering these questions to give it that dimension, that score. And there's directions for this in the handbook also to renew your mind once you actually do this months down the road. This is what a consensus score sheet would look like. I made one also that has the 10 that is in the on the workstation also. So when you come to consensus, you each have your own individual score sheets that you've given each dimension of every interview a score. And now you're going to come together and have a meeting, and you might say, so Dana, what did you give interview number 1, knowledge of effort? She might say, I gave it a 5. And I might say, oh, I only gave it a 3.5. And you might say, then you have to have a time to have a conversation, go back and look at it. You know, some people are just going to score higher. You're going to get to know how each other scores. After you've gone through a couple, it's going to get easier, and you may say, oh, yep, we're going to meet right here in the middle. We're going to give it a 4.5 or whatever it is. That would be here in the middle there. My math is not working. So once you do them, you're going to get to know how each other scores, you know, a little better. And that's also, though, what might be helpful if you do get an interview completed and you both want to go through and score it and then come together on a consensus. You might be able to kind of have a conversation about how you're scoring them and how give each other some tips and some guidance that might be helpful as you score the rest of them. So after you get them all the scores in there with their decimals, then you're going to do your average. So you're just going to add all of the knowledge of efforts, all 10 of them or more if you do more, add them all together, divide by 10, and you're going to get the average dimension or average level of readiness for knowledge of efforts. And then you're going to do the same thing with leadership, the same thing with community climate. You're just going to add all of those scores together, divide by 10 or however many interviews you've done to get the average. And then that last column where it has the average, you're going to add all of those averages together, divide it by 5 to get your overall readiness score. So all of this column on the end here is what you're going to use to fill in your summary report, because you need the readiness score for each dimension as well as your overall readiness score to compare to the baseline information that you have. Any questions on that?
You know, there aren't any in the chat, but I didn't know if you wanted to take a break maybe after this last slide or keep rolling. I just wanted to let you know where you're at the hour mark.
Okay, thanks. So this is what the example will look like in the handbook. As you can see, there's a lot of decimals there. The readiness score for each dimension is different, is going to be different. And they've taken those averages and added them to get the overall readiness. So you'll have that to look at in your example in the handbook also. All right, I'll do a quick check-in on how everyone is doing. Do you want to take a 10-minute break?
No, let's push. Well, that's my opinion. Push through.
Is everybody good with pushing through?
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
All right. All right, there's not a lot left. All right, so the dimensions of readiness. There is also, this is in the workstation and is in the handbook, the 9 stages of readiness and what that stage means. The definitions are in the handbook. And you can compare to where you were before to where you are now. And that will also help to identify where you are now, because you are all sustaining your efforts and you want to move forward. So you might be able to say, oh, we're more ready than we were 4 years ago. Maybe we can look at our strategies and to see what we might be ready to tackle now that maybe we weren't ready to tackle 4 years from now. You can also celebrate with your coalition and your community about that readiness, and just make wise choices as far as planning on next steps for what you're going to do next. You also want to keep this information, because this is something that, yes, you have to mandatory do it for the grant, but this is something that if you want to decide as a community 3 years from now to do again, you have all of the resources available to you. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. So this is something that you can do again down the road. All right, so just recommendations, okay, about pacing your work. This isn't due as far as the summary report until June, but it is going to be a little time consuming, and you already have the work that you're already doing. So a recommendation, just looking at, it's going to be March, right around the corner here. I mean, you can start now, you can start next week if you want to, up to you, but at least thinking about if you prepared your interview questions, you got that, those questions already, and you've thought about who you want to interview, and you have that list down. If you get all that done, and maybe, you know, it takes some time to schedule 10 people to maybe, you know, making those calls and seeing if you can set up with your schedule and their schedule. Plus you have to identify who else is going to be doing these interviews with you. So making sure that they are ready and are prepared, understand what the process is, preparing yourselves for what that looks like, reading through all those questions and the scoring. Having all that done in March, then in April and May, you could conduct those interviews, score the interviews so that you have the rest of May, what's left, and that first couple of weeks in June to really look at the data and to complete your report. Celebrate with your coalition, identify, you know, what next steps are that you might want to take and use this data for, which that's going to be yours to continue to do beyond, of course, the grant period. But the grant period ends the end of June. And so that's when your report's going to be due on the 19th, as well as you're also going to have some other things that are going to be due, like your last quarterly progress report, as well as your regular you know, coalition meetings and everything that you're good things that you're doing to implement in your community. It's the end of a school year. So it'll get busy, and May seems to always be such a busy year anyway, or a busy month.
It does feel like a year.
Yeah. So those are just recommendations. Upcoming dates, remember to look at your deadlines and deliverables. The third quarterly progress report is due April 14th. So you'll want to take quarter two's report that you have in your folders and add quarter three information to it, and to upload that in the folder. You have on there a data and evaluation workshop April 10th. And I'm sorry, I don't know anything else about that yet. Heather, do you?
I do not.
Sense making and community checkbox reviews to be determined in May. We also have your presentations in May. And that's when you will all get to do your own PowerPoint and your presentations to celebrate and brag on your coalition and the great things that you've done, and present that to each other, as well as contractors and other coalitions that are not in their final year. So that'll sneak up in there also. You want to complete your interviews and scoring by the end of May so that you can complete that report by June 19th. You'll have that coalition capacity link that will be sent out to you in April. You'll get that will close April 14th, and you'll get that report April 21st. And then the fourth quarter report is due June 20th. All of this is in your deadlines and deliverables that's in your folder, but just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention just to show that, yeah, it's going to be busy, and pacing your work is important. And if there's anything we can help you with, that's what we're here for. All right, now, any lingering questions? Any other of the contractors or evaluation team that has anything that they want to share?
No, but you will be sending out, are you sending out the evaluation link for this
Now
training?
it's next.
The next slide.
Yep, it's on the next slide.
Oh, okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions about assessment, coalition capacity, or community readiness interviews?
No, I don't have any questions. You had asked about the efficacy of Damon Parker coming to our schools from the Jones Project. He came out on Monday and was fabulous. In fact, the teachers that at our high school had the kids write a reflection paper, and one of the teachers contacted me to tell me that almost every single kid said that that was the best presenter they had ever heard, kind of as a spin out, you know, if somebody's input into your life affects change in your life. I had a Y-Link meeting on Wednesday. On Monday, he spoke to the kids about finding your people and using them to support you and help you and let them know you're hurting. And that Y-Link meeting turned into a giant boohoo session, but it was also very fruitful in the bonding process. And also, like, you could see those kids opening up to each other. You could see the stigma of talking about mental health issues, like almost evaporating from the room. And so I couldn't say enough good things about Damon. Okay, one bad thing is he does say ass and hell in his presentation. So if you're in a community where you don't want somebody to say something like, I'm going to go stalk that guy's ass on Facebook if he tells me he's hurting or something like that. What that did for our kids is it really kind of broke down the barriers and made him more relatable. But anyway, he was fabulous.
All right, so it is a free resource that is available, and it's called the Jones Project. And I think I had sent out to some of my coalitions the information about it, but I hadn't gotten feedback. I know Holton in Jackson County, I think, was also had scheduled. So if anyone is interested and wants more information about that, Lori Martin is your go-to person to talk to about that if you're interested in bringing that to your community.
We also were really successful in renting the movie A Man Called Otto. And we used that as a springboard for a town hall meeting. We had 87 people come and we served hot chocolate. We used the meeting as the evening then following the movie as kind of a springboard for community discussion relative to our drug-free communities grant application and what our community would like to see as far as ways that we could reach out to each other. And so that was very fruitful as well.
Awesome. Yes. So Clay County is applying for a drug-free community grant, and so they have been working on that. So just throwing these things out there because we have not been together as a group as often in the last few years. And so learning from each other and waiting till that end of the year presentation. These are great opportunities if there's something that you're interested in and you want to share with one another. Let us know and we can make the connection if you don't have emails or a way to connect. It's great to learn from one another. You guys are the experts out there doing all this great work. So it's good to learn from them.
Theater let us, I mean, this is like a brand new release movie. I was shocked. $250 is all they charged us. And so I thought that was pretty good as far as being, and getting people to come in and share their thoughts is sometimes hard. So anyway, yeah.
Good. All right. Thanks, Lori, for sharing. Any questions for Lori?
I have two things. One, yes, that movie is very powerful and it's so sad, but it also makes you laugh at the same time. And it's just, you leave not knowing exactly how to feel about it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Jones Project, is that something that you think might be a speaker from that project would be good to have at the KPC conference? What exactly do they present on? And would that be an appropriate, because I'm on the planning committee and we're looking for speakers, and I'm wondering if that would be an appropriate speaker that we could consider for keynote or something?
Damon is free. He'll charge you for mileage. That's it. And then if you want to make a donation, so that's kind of the cost that's associated with it. He lives in Topeka, which is where that's based out of. And so then it's mileage from Topeka to wherever you're having the conference. Wichita, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. His target audience is kids. He talks about his own mental health journey and then gives strategies on ways to seek help. And I could see that being a good forum for him. His goal is to get into every high school, middle school in the state of Kansas. And so that would be a way to launch that by allowing people to listen to him. I listened to him 3 times on Monday, and I just got something different out of it every time I heard him. So yeah, I'd say yes.
I think it's just the jonesproject.org if you want to look into to that more.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions or anything anybody would like to share?
Go Chiefs.
I know that just to bring to your attention, just to remind you, community checkbox documentation tells your story, but there's also reports that are in your folder now on a monthly basis. Don't forget to go and look at those reports. They also help to say, oh, shoot, this is missing. It doesn't tell this part of our story. So it might help you to identify if there's anything missing and what you can add there. So make sure and look at those reports and make sure they're useful, being used wisely to your advantage. And if there isn't anything else, the survey, there is a QR code on the screen there. And Heather, do you have the link to put in the chat there? If not, I can quit sharing and get it. If you wouldn't mind, please just take the evaluation for the training today. We'd appreciate that, and knowing what we can do to make it better and more understandable. So if there's any feedback that you have, we'd appreciate hearing from you on that. Are you able to get it?
Could you put it in the chat?
She's working on that. Thanks. There it is.
Okay. Got it.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. You guys get 45 minutes back in your day that we scheduled. So you have plenty of time to do the evaluation. And reach out to any of us if you have any questions when it comes time to start actually implementing your interviews and scoring those interviews. Let us know how we can help. And if you don't have any other questions or anything that you want to share with our time, you're free to go.